Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Chrissy Hodges. I'm an advocate for OCD, in particular Pure OCD, which is the community name for those of us who experience intrusive thoughts and mental rituals. It's also the name of my book, Pure OCD, The Invisible Side of Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. This is a memoir about my own experience of Pure O and leading up to treatment. I'm a certified peer support specialist working with people all over the world, providing support and normalization for living with OCD. I can also provide referrals through a referral consultation. Go to chrissyhodges.com to find out more. NoCD, NOCD is an app. Inside their app, there's all kinds of resources. You can connect to individuals who have OCD, and they also provide telehealth. So for exposure response prevention, go to treatmyocd.com to learn more. Excited to do this video today. This is something I hear a lot and something that you're not going to hear a lot when people are advocating for OCD. Why? People just don't talk about it a lot. It can be very confusing to talk about, and a lot of people feel shame about talking about this out loud. But you know me, I don't care. Because what's the most important to me is to be able to connect you or to communicate to you that what you're experiencing is part of OCD, even though your brain will tell you that it's not. And that's actually one of my first points, is this disorder feels so real, and especially on the topic that I'm going to talk about today, that one of the secondary thoughts and the fears that we have is this is not OCD. This can't be OCD if I'm having physical symptoms. It can't be OCD if I'm having feelings attached to my intrusive thoughts. So what does that lead us to? Especially when it comes to taboo, harm, POCD, those kind of intrusive thoughts. Often people will think to themselves, what if I'm just using OCD as an excuse for these feelings? And this is who I really am. This is what I really want. Because over time, when you have had OCD for that long, you can become confused about this being intrusive and shameful and miserable, and confused to, oh my gosh, now I feel like I want it. Now I feel like because my body is reacting maybe in the groinal area, the arousal area, that this must mean that this is my true self, my true identity, and I'm actually using OCD as an excuse because I don't want to face the facts that I might be the person that my OCD is telling me, or I might want to do these acts, or I might be this horrible deviant that just isn't willing to face the truth. This is so common. What if I'm using OCD as an excuse? What if I really want these things? I'm starting to feel like I want these things now. And I just cannot believe inside of myself that this is an actual disorder. It doesn't feel like a disorder. Well, I want to assure you that OCD feels very real for everyone, which is why we do the things that we do, which are compulsions. If it didn't feel real, we would easily be able to dismiss it. I know it sounds very trivial that I'm saying that, and it sounds very easy. Remember that I have OCD, so I understand the degree to which this feels like this is part of who I am, so much that it's terrifying. I just want you to know that this is a common thing that people go through with OCD. The secondary questioning, the secondary fears, I am the exception because I now feel like I want this. And you can even, like, I'm scared that I want this, but you can even feel like I don't even have fear anymore because I feel like I'm enjoying the symptoms. Remember, we cannot invest in our feelings when it comes to OCD. I'm not invalidating your feelings, so understand that. The feelings and emotions around OCD are very real. This is an emotional illness as much as it is a behavioral illness. But when we start to rely on feelings, that's when OCD can use those feelings against us. It can use those feelings to morph us into the new fears of, oh my goodness, I'm having these feelings. That must mean I want them. That must mean they're strong. Like the groinal is inevitably going to feel stronger than actual arousal. In your logical brain, you're going to say, there's no way that I don't want this with the feeling of, arousal that I have. So, OCD, the prime example of this is the feeling of disgust, right? So if you're relying on disgust and anxiety, as long as I have these feelings, I will know that I don't want these intrusive thoughts. Eventually, OCD is not going to produce the feelings of disgust. And in a way, you're desensitizing to that feeling. I don't want to use that as the actual mechanism, but that's how you can conceptualize it, right? So if I'm using the feeling of disgust and I have desensitized to that, I'm not going to feel the feeling of disgust anymore because I was using it to prove that I did or didn't have OCD, which proving is always compulsive. So with that said, let me go into what I really want to talk about in this video, and I think this is really important. Again, if you're on this video and you don't understand what I'm talking about, my dog is at the window. I have an office downstairs now, and my dog is at the window barking at me. She doesn't understand because she's outside. So if you hear barking, that's all that's going on. If you don't understand OCD and you hear this video and you think I'm making some excuse for, you know, some of these inflammatory topics I'm talking about, you need to go and watch some videos on these particular themes, and don't be going in the comments acting like an asshole, okay? Because I will delete you and I will block you, and because this is specifically for the OCD community, and a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about is confusing if you don't have OCD, and that's okay. All right, so I have a lot of videos on acting on the intrusive thoughts, the fear of, did I act on the intrusive thoughts? And I always say acting is in the eye of the beholder, right? Because what you're going to read on the internet is this: nobody with OCD actually acts on their intrusive thoughts. Well, now all of a sudden, if that's true, then now all of a sudden we're going to start honing in and micromanaging what acting means. What does acting mean, right? Because acting can easily be testing or checking, which is a compulsion, which is so natural to do. When we are looking at intrusive thoughts that are disturbing to us, or we're trying to figure something out, we're looking for proof, what better way than to create that scenario somehow to see how you're going to react, to see what feelings come along, which again, I just told you, I'm hoping disgust, I'm hoping anxiety, I'm hoping horrible feelings, so it will prove that I don't have OCD, or that this is OCD, and the intrusive thoughts aren't real. Okay, well, that will work for a while because compulsions work until they don't. So what happens is you will test, okay? Easiest example would be porn, right? I'm going to go and I'm going to test what these intrusive thoughts are to that kind of porn, and I'm going to micromanage okay, am I getting aroused? Am I not getting aroused? Oh, thank goodness, I don't feel like I'm aroused, and this is what I want. Well, then you're going to turn the porn off and you're going to go, oh my gosh, why did I even look at that porn in the first place? That must mean something. And then it might go into, oh no, that means I acted on it. And even worse, you may just blow that off. And then a year down the line, you may remember that you did that. And that memory will then start. OCD will latch onto that and be like, oh, remember a year ago when you went onto that porn site? Remember, you acted on it. Why would you look at that if this isn't real? So the memory piece of acting on it will get you too. And so this is why it's important to understand why behavior is compulsive, even though your brain listening to this right now is going, but it wasn't compulsive. I'm different. I was not testing and checking. I think I really wanted this. Maybe I did. I can't remember what I thought when I was watching that porn. This can go to anything, okay? So this can go to, I'm going to test and check if I have POCD, which is the fear of being a pedophile. I am going to test or check by sitting by my niece or nephew at dinner and seeing how I feel. Do I have, scared feelings, or do I have disgust, or do I have anxiety? And oh my gosh, I think that I moved my foot over. Did my foot move in their direction? What does that mean? Does that mean I tested? Does that mean I acted on it? Maybe I wanted it. See how it can get confusing. But at the end of the day, you were testing. You were checking. Testing, checking is a compulsion. So you were in a position to try to see what was going to happen so you could prove or disprove the intrusive thoughts were real or not. It's so important to understand this and to remember this. Again, your brain's going to argue with me and be like, this girl doesn't know what she's talking about. You're the exception. But whenever we are looking to prove or disprove thoughts, this is a compulsion. It doesn't matter how real it feels. It's still compulsive. So then you might start to be hyper aware of your movements and your body in space. if it's POCD, wherever a child is, in the room or whatever, even the TV, even like thoughts and stuff, you might start to micromanage what your body is doing. Oh my God, did I just thrust? Oh my goodness, did I just move my hips? Oh my goodness, when I hugged my niece or nephew or my child, or when I hugged that kid, where was my hand and why would my hand be there? And why would I need to know where my hand was? Because obviously, did I want my hand somewhere else? But again, that might trigger you now, or that might bring you some relief, because that's what compulsions are for, because you're like, okay, I hugged the kid, I didn't have any feelings, everything's great. But a year later, you might remember that and think, oh my goodness, what did I feel? Why did I do that? What does that mean? What does that say about me? So memories are a trap too. So it's important to remember this, and this is where things can weave into false memories. Did this happen? Did I really do that? What was I feeling during? I can't even remember it, because you're really just remembering the memory. You're not remembering what was actually happening in the moment. The other thing is, this can also get confused with just doing normal life. And you hear this often when you're listening to stuff about advocacy. Okay, just know that OCD there is going to be there, and do life anyway. A lot of people will say, this makes me want to spit nails. Do things according to your values. Okay, I get it. And I get why that tagline exists. Okay, I understand. But what these people are failing to understand is that a lot of us with taboo, intrusive thoughts question our values, right? Because we're like, well, why would I have that thought anyway? There must be something real about this. I must be some deviant down under. What kind of person thinks about this? This is actually really sinister. This is really what's going on with me. So I don't even know where my values are anymore. So when you hear these fucking taglines that are just like, go towards your values, you're sitting there thinking, well, I don't know what my values are. I feel like I've lost them in this experience of having OCD. So I am sorry when you hear that and you feel very left out. You're not alone in that. So fuck that tagline and leave it to the side and just don't listen to it. Because sure, that works for a lot of people, but for a pretty good percentage of people, they're scared they've lost their values because of the intrusive thoughts and because of this experience that you didn't ask for and isn't your fault. Remember that. Your brain just said, it is my fault and I do want it, but screw your brain. So with that said, we do have to do life with OCD. We still have to get things done, even though things are triggering. So what happens is that we will say to ourselves, okay, today I'm going to go and do X, Y, and Z because I have to do it. But when we're having in our mind, we have to do life anyway. When we have to do things that we know might be triggering, we might think to ourselves, well, why did I choose to do that? I should have just not done that, because choosing to do it must mean that I'm accepting it, or choosing to do it may mean I'm acting on it. Or choosing would be that I wanted it. I knew I was going to get triggered. I did it anyway. So maybe that's my real true self coming out. And I'm starting to move toward the intrusive thoughts being real. Okay, do you see where I'm getting to with this? No. We do have to do real life. And a lot of times what that means is you're going to be faced with triggers. You have to go to the grocery store sometimes. You have to go to work. You have to go to the car, and you might see a kid. If you have POCD, you have to cook sometimes. You have to watch TV. I mean, you don't have to watch TV, but you are going to be exposed to TV. You are going to be exposed to videos, and you might see a knife, and you might see something violent and with harm OCD. You might see, you're going to have to see your family members, or you might see your family members and you're going to think to yourself, but I knew I was going to get triggered. So does that mean I want incest? What am I doing? Again, we're going into the realm of am I acting on it? Does this mean I want it? But you have to do life, and life is going to present you with triggers. And so it's important to remember that that is part of the pattern then. If that's what OCD is saying to you, that's going to be how it's dragging you down another tunnel just to keep you stuck. Okay, and then lastly, if you're contemplating therapy and you're scared, or you've already gotten therapy and you've had to do exposures to things that were taboo, repugnant, intrusive thoughts, okay? Unacceptable, intrusive thoughts. I'm scared to do exposures. I'm scared to do therapy because I don't want to do the exposures that I think the therapist is going to tell me to do. I want to empower you in a way of this. You don't have to do things that are going to traumatize you, okay? That's not what exposure response prevention is and what it should not be. You know, what you're really just doing is recreating a trigger and experiencing that trigger for what it is so you can see what happens in that trigger. A good therapist is going to be able to help you recreate that in a way that, yes, it's going to feel challenging because we don't want to face fear, but in a way that is going to put you in a position where I know I'm safe, but I know I'm also learning a new way of interacting with my brain. So you may think to yourself, I don't want to do exposures because what if the exposures are going to be me acting on the thoughts? This is what OCD will tell you. Oh, go do exposures because A, you're using OCD as an excuse and these are the things you really want. So doing exposures are going to be like, oh, yay, look, I get to do this. And that's what's going to terrify you. That's what OCD might say to you. Remembering that this is a chronic illness. It's not your fault. You didn't ask for it. You didn't ask for your theme. And it's important to get professional help when dealing with OCD. But the last point I want to make is this. You may have already gone through exposure response prevention and it may have been successful, you know, or maybe it wasn't successful. Maybe you were with the wrong therapist. Maybe it wasn't the right time. Maybe you need a different modality of treatment. Maybe you need to deal with the shame of what's going on first before you get exposure response prevention. Either way, you've done exposures and now you're looking back. Now, a year later, now 6 months later, a month later, whatever, 5 years later, you look back and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did those exposures. What does that mean? Does that mean I acted on it? And what if I did want it? So now see how it can morph into those exposures make me a horrible person. Maybe those exposures were my true self coming out. Doing those, I can't live with myself. What if people knew I did this? So see, that is also a huge trap. It is the OCD using the memory of things on, did you act on it? Did you want this? That can easily pull you back in because trying to remember things is an easy way to not be able to 100% pinpoint what was going on. So when I did exposures for HOCD, sexual orientation OCD, I identify as straight and I had intrusive thoughts about being gay. When I was doing exposure response prevention for it, there was a time afterwards, there was a time where I looked back on the exposures that I did and went, oh my goodness, what kind of person would have to do these kind of exposures to prove they're straight or gay, right? So there was the trap right there. And I was able to recognize that. So every time that would pop up, I would recognize and choose to believe that this was OCD. And then I would do some exposures around that and the feelings that it would cause. It is an ongoing process of always recognizing that pattern, of always being able to say, okay, I recognize when I'm ruminating, mentally reviewing, avoiding things like that. And now I need to choose the next steps on how to alleviate this and how to work on managing it and communicating to my brain differently. I hope this helps. This is such a huge topic that I really wanted to hit. And a lot of people experience this and feel very, very alone in this. So I hope this helps you know. This is very common. So many people deal with this. You're just not going to find a lot on the internet about it. But I hope that this helps. Go to ChrissyHodges.com to find out more about peer support or referral consultations. You can jump on my calendar right then or email me if my calendar times don't work for you. I only have specific hours during the week that I have listed, but I am super flexible. If you're looking for treatment for OCD or want to know more about NoCD, go to treatmyocd.com. I'll see you next time, and I hope that you're doing okay, and I hope this video was helpful. Bye.